Welcome to the Coffee with Karen podcast, a weekly chat show discussing everything from holistic health to current affairs from a mental, physical, and spiritual perspective. Get your weekly cup of positivity with a sprinkling of woo-woo.
Day and welcome to the show. This is going out on Mintwave Radio. You can ask Alexa, or you can go to the website karenrobertscoaching.com/mintwave-radio. Or if this is via podcast, you can get the Apple or Android app. If you go to, again, same website /podcast-network. And there's not just mine, we've got plenty of other podcasts out there. So feel free to check them out, subscribe to any, follow any, and leave a comment. So today's episode is 138. And today we have Jen Mons, and she is a coach and a mentor. And we're going to be talking about the 5 elements of wealth, the path to prosperity, and the feminine leadership method. So I'm your host, Karen Roberts. We provide a platform for coaches and therapists to get their message heard to the people who need it. Now, Jen is a mentor for healers, coaches, and conscious feminine leaders ready to activate their gifts, embody prosperity, and create a legacy. So welcome to the show, Jen.
Hi, welcome. Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. And well, first of all, could you share with the audience maybe a little bit of your story and how you came to be doing what you're doing right now before we talk about today's subject?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you for the invitation. So I guess if you look at the story from the outside, it looks like I've had 9 lives. So I've gotten really good and clear about sharing the story, but it starts with my college experience going to a military academy and graduating with an engineering degree, really just in that mindset of doing the thing that I thought I was supposed to do, the thing that I thought it was supposed to do. That was going to make me money, make my parents proud, the whole thing. This was in the 90s, right? So I graduated from that service academy with 2 degrees as a reservist in the military. I laugh because it's just so different from who I am now. And I worked I worked corporate for 8 years and was really, proving myself. I was proving myself in the masculine world and doing a great job at overworking, and had that badge of honor, right? Like I'm the overachiever. I'm going to give my life to this corporate company. And everything changed in 2006 when, with the birth of my first daughter, I had a near-death experience, NC-induced liver failure. And so that was really my first awakening, I guess you could say, shifted the course of my life. From that moment on, when you have an experience like that, you're in a position of survival. And so from that point on, it was really, how do I get my life back? And I took a year off of work. That daughter and myself spent the next 3 to 6 years recovering our health, which led me to first the path of holistic wellness. So holistic health, deepening that knowledge through functional medicine, integrative medicine, not as a doctor, but as a health coach. And then detoxification, herbal medicine, energy work. And then I had a second health crisis in 2014. So I didn't learn the first time. I didn't learn that what was really creating my health issue was overwork and stress. So what was interesting in 2014 is I was at the peak of eating clean. I believed whole foods could heal everything. I had created a lot of changes in my life and the clients I was serving. And I had a second health crisis, and that health crisis was a little bit more energetic. So even though I had introduced physical whole foods and herbal medicine into my own life and grown leaps and bounds in my own health, I still had the same behavior patterns of overworking and trying to hustle and prove myself. And that's what that second health crisis in 2014 was, really a deeper wake-up call. So I decided to take another year off kind of. I homeschool traveled with my kids that year, became a meditation teacher, breathwork facilitator, yoga teacher, started diving into energy work. So that's kind of more, growing into the emotional, mental, spiritual component of well-being, and started to understand health as wealth, but also that it's multidimensional, and begin the list of certifications. The overachiever didn't really stop. It kind of continued from corporate to being a coach, but I became, dove into the work of reprogramming the subconscious and facilitating retreats. And then I guess the third breakdown was a financial crisis, which was really, out of which led me, I was led into that out of misalignment again, which is why I talk about energy alignment over hustle. And that was really just entering a misaligned business partnership, which led to a financial breakdown in my business and almost walking away from my coaching business of 10 years, and helped me to understand this fifth element of well-being, which is that it's important for us as leaders. And we can define leader as leader in your home, your community, in the world, right? Like us, we're willing to have conversations to create awareness for people. We're leading that conversation, but how important it is for us to be resourced financially. And so that's the fifth element of wealth. So that's how I got here.
Ah, wow. So a few nudges from the universe, right?
I like
Uh,
to call them soul upgrades.
yeah, love that. Love that. Because yeah, isn't that interesting then? Just because you think you've got the physical aspect dealt with, so the types of foods. Stress, man. I mean, it's just totally underestimated. If you've got too much cortisol in your body, then it doesn't really matter what the rest of the stuff that you're doing. It's going to shut everything else down. And it's got to be the biggest cause. I mean, I don't have stats. I don't know how they can measure it, I suppose. But really, when you understand this, you must be able to realize that that is got to be the biggest problem in this day and age. Way too many people doing way too much, putting too much stress on themselves, too many expectations, and there you go, proof in the pudding. It's not a good end result, is it?
It's not. And you hit it on the money, literally. In today's world, it's like it's become a cultural norm no matter where you live. And what's driving this, I jokingly call it like a badge of honor, but sometimes, and my audience is women, so I'm, speaking to, like, what are we trying to prove, and like, what does all this mean anyway? But we sort of where it is like, oh, I've just got too much to do. I'm just so busy. And so one of the practices that I teach and I've really been stepping into is understanding that we are the ownership. We're the source of our time. We're the source of our energy. We are the source of our money. So we get to choose what that looks like. And I've learned that for me, the time management is really a symptom from having too much to do. You don't have to manage your time if it's not chaotically full. And yeah, just really taking more ownership of that, and removing the word busy from my vocabulary, because for me busy means misaligned, because we all have the same
Mm.
24 hours in the day. We get to choose how we show up in that 24 hours.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been there, a busy being busy doesn't mean I'm very productive or that I wasn't very productive, but I was too busy. I was busy being busy. And I think subconsciously as well, that can be avoiding certain things that maybe you should be doing. And then it can be almost used as a bit of an excuse, or we just get caught up in it, don't we?
Yeah, and what's it costing us? What it's usually costing us is maybe our health, but maybe it's deeper connections in our relationships with our partner, with our children, with our community, right? I mean, how often do we when there are like 5 things to do, how often do we attack the small things that aren't really that important first to put off the big thing that really matters, right? Like maybe like it's writing that book, or I mean, I do it myself, and what's underneath that is, a fear, right? It's all subconscious. It's kind of this cycle of the dance between the fear and what are we trying to prove,
Yeah.
and then and life is moving, like life is moving by, and somehow we get kind of snapped into this reality that either all of a sudden 10 years went by and we didn't do the thing we said we were going to do, or there's a breakdown in health, or a breakdown in marriage or family or relationships or something. So I
Which
guess.
makes sense. Which makes sense now, doesn't it? Because that kind of living like that is just not sustainable. We're not designed for that. And I would say more women than men. And I'm not saying anyone's better than the next. I'm just saying that we as women are not designed for that amount of stress. Men are actually more equipped to deal with it. It's still not healthy for them, but I feel, rightly or wrongly, this is just my personal opinion, that women are actually suffering more so because we are more of the nurture type, and where people are trying to almost run their work, their business as a male,
Mm,
if you know what I mean. Um,
100%.
and it's actually putting more pressure on them, because then they have feelings of guilt, or they haven't been spending enough time with the kids, or haven't spent, so they're actually, because they're trying to be in that lane, I think they're suffering even more so, because look, we've got different cycles going on, right? We've got our different, what men do in a day. We've got a completely different cycle going throughout the month, and we're just not designed. Nobody. Let's scrap that. Nobody, no human being is designed for the level of stress that we put on ourselves, or in some certain situations, some companies or the bosses can put on their workers. But it does seem like things aren't. Are they getting better, or do you think things are going the other way?
Well, I think we're in it right now, and I think, it started with the pandemic, and we were really a lot of things began to shift, and you're speaking my language right now, to like I'm really getting lit up around this conversation. When you look at what I shared about my story, I literally believed I could do anything a man could do and have babies. And what happened when it was my time to have a child, it was the first time that it just didn't go, quote, as planned. And my body shut down. I had liver failure. What's the emotion related with liver? Anger and resentment. It's almost like I resented being a woman, and here I am stepping into motherhood, and I just like got a really quick wake up call on who do you
Wow.
really want to be, right? Like are you going to deny yourself? Because in my work environments it wasn't safe to be feminine. I mean, if you're in the military, or not only that, sailed on merchant ships around the world as the only woman on a ship. And so I shrunk to be very masculine because it was safe. So,
Mm.
and you're right, like I believe everything you're saying. Like women are more naturally in tune with the cycles of mother nature. Like our menstrual cycle aligns with the lunar cycles. That is that is feminine energy. Men have access to it too. And when we are trying to be like men, what have we done to ourselves? So now we're the breadwinners, and we're trying to take care of kids and cook dinner. And what's happened is there's a lot of resentment. There's a lot of exhaustion. There's a lot of feeling undervalued and unappreciated. What if there's a way that we can still show up and do this type of work, but it comes from a different place where it's not to prove anything anymore? But what if we step into, it's not to say that we can't be CEOs running companies, or we can't be engineers, or whatever that is. It's just that we can do it differently. We get
Mm.
we get to bring that balance, that feminine energy into that workforce that aligns with how we were created naturally. And I that creates more balance. And I believe I'm like, with every cell in my body, we are shifting that paradigm right now. And if you look at creation as a whole, the energy of the souls coming into the earth, the 20 to 30-year-olds, they can't even relate to this conversation because it's almost like they were born into that new truth anyway. So it's really I'm 45. So women in this generation, right, we're caught in between two generations. You think about our parents and grandparents, right? Grandparents lived in the Depression. I mean, in the 50s is women's voting and birth control, right? Like that's only born in the
Yeah.
70s, right? So wasn't that long ago. And so we're just in it right now. But the beauty of us being our age is that we get to lead with the wisdom of the experience of life while shifting this paradigm for the generations to come. And that's the work that I do, because it's, as long as we're trying to live up to something that's out of alignment for us as women, which is what we've been doing, they're going to continue to be those breakdowns. And the truth is that we are more productive when we are in alignment, when we honor those cycles of rest, when we honor those cycles of creativity, when we honor the cycles of intuition. Any person who, like, that's what the red tents were back for the native tribes, right? Like the women of the circles would come together and rest. And when we're on our cycle, the veil is very thin. Like it's where, in my belief, that's when we're, the sacral chakra, that's where life comes into the earth. So when we're on that cycle, and that when we shed the lining on our cycle, that is a very thin veil, meaning we're very open to source. So there is
Mm.
wisdom coming through in those moments. We're living in a time and a place where we don't even honor that anymore. I mean, we don't honor that when we're on our cycle, our body's tired for a reason. Because naturally it's tapping into intuition. Naturally it's tapping into wisdom. But we're just continuing to work 10 hours a day. That's probably, you feel it in your body. It's time to
Mm.
slow down and listen and tune in with what's happening. So, yeah,
But
this conversation could go.
we've been conditioned to ignore all that. That never got spoken about, and it's still quite often not, that's just, women, oh, that's why they can't do this because, but it's finally, I hope that is one thing that has come out of the madness of the last few years, is that I think more and more people are becoming more aware that, yeah, we need to go back to being a little bit more connected with the earth and the natural cycles, because we are connected. But I suppose because there has been this massive disconnect over the last however many hundreds of years, and I think more and more people are just coming back to that way of, it is what it is. Just because we've decided that we're going to switch that off and not listen, that actually, yeah, maybe we should trust our own intuition that we've been conditioned to not listen to or ignore. And then people might be happier and healthier.
Yeah, listening. That's the word. And I love that you said connect to the earth, because when we really slow down and be present, it's actually a way that we can be resourced. And everybody who's running around exhausted and overwhelmed right now, like, if you just let yourself be resourced by the energy of the earth. The moon cycles is one of them. Okay. The moon affects the tide. The earth is 70% water. Our bodies, depending on our age, are anywhere from, I guess, 50 to 80% water. How can we not think that we're going to be affected? I live 400 yards from the beach. Okay. So this is a way that we can tap into the energy that is plentiful. We can there's new moon and full moon energy, and then we have the cycles and the seasons. What do bears do in the winter? They hibernate.
Mhm.
We do not need to be, we need more rest in the winter. That's why the days are shorter. So we continue the same work cycle pattern no matter what the seasons are. And time management is a very masculine way of living. Energetic alignment, cyclical living, is a more feminine way. It's just the way that we are. It's okay for the two to exist, but it's what's out of alignment is when we're forcing the time management and ignoring the natural cycles and flow.
Mm.
So,
But it's also people's own. It's we're doing it to ourselves, right? Okay, I know in a workplace it's been set for them, but even then, as women, again, we've been conditioned to, we do come last. We've got to deal with everybody else. To spend time on self-care would have been perceived as a luxury rather than a necessity. And then if people were, again, like you said earlier, about you had this resentment thing going on subconsciously, of course. And I think a lot of women do. They have, because they're not allowing themselves to spend time on self-care, which is a necessity, not a luxury, because then they will be more productive moving forward.
I love that you use the word allow. And I, because receiving is one of the biggest blocks that women are experiencing. And that's very sacral chakra. And the sacral chakra is the feminine energy. And it's a huge block to wealth, as in the financial freedom part, but also the intimacy and love part. Sacral chakra, right? Sacral chakra is literally where we receive and we create and we give. That is
Mm.
that's the female uterus. That is what's happening there. So when we're too busy, quote, busy, because I don't use that word.
I'm going to
We
eliminate it from
Let's
today because I.
eliminate. Just gone. I like to say my time is committed. My schedule is abundantly full, but because I choose what I do with my time, if busy doesn't feel good for me, it feels like, oh, it's just stuff I have to do. I don't do things I have to do anymore. I choose what I do. So it feels very abundantly full, and I'm choosing that, and I'm okay with it. If it feels too full and it feels like a push, then I back off a little bit. But busy, I don't resonate with anymore.
Love that. Love that. I've never even considered. So this is it, isn't it? We do things automatically. We say things automatically, and we forget sometimes that actually that is a negative thing to be even saying to yourself. So with regards to with what you're doing, with what you're helping primarily women with, if we talk about prosperity and wealth, what do you mean by prosperity consciousness for starters?
Yeah. So what I call prosperity consciousness is embodied trust. So it's beyond just saying the thing, right? Like words are one thing, thinking things are one thing, but actually, truly, really allowing the vibration, the frequency of what you believe is possible to drop into your body and to become what it is that you are seeking. What you're seeking is seeking you. Rumi says that, right? So it's really there's a difference between believing and knowing. Like believing is 99% there, but knowing is 100%. Knowing something to be true, that's embodied trust. And what I've discovered is the what's keeping women from fully stepping into this shift is not fully trusting themselves, not fully believing that they'll either be still lovable, still valued when they don't work as hard, or whatever that belief is. When they shift into alignment of trusting that who they are is enough. Prosperity is the energy of giving and receiving. So for me, I look at it as abundance is receiving, and prosperity is giving from a place of overflowing. Most women that I'm speaking to are already overgiving. They're overgiving of their time. They're overgiving. What's underneath that? Do they believe that they have to do that in order to be valued? Well, you know what? Maybe because my first corporate job out of college, I was a mechanical engineer and I made 20% less than my male counterparts doing the same job. It's still that way in my country. And then you look at Black and Latino women and they're still underpaid. So we are still in this paradigm shift collectively of rewriting this story. I don't believe in it. I mean, I know that it's there, but I don't believe that it's going to be our truth in the future. And so it's important for us to support and to rise up. And this isn't like an anti-masculine thing. It's more about just supporting women. I think of like the lionesses, right? There's one guy and then there's the lioness pack, and they work together and they nurture the babies. They take care of everything. That's our natural energy. So when we truly support each other and rise up collectively, it's going to shift the consciousness of the collective. And I just truly believe that that's what we're being called into right now. And the beautiful thing is that there are so many men supporting us in that. They want this too. There are more men rising to the occasion to support and also tapping into the own feminine energy within them. More nurturing, more vulnerability. They want that permission too. So it's more of an energy than just saying it's men and women, but more of supporting the energy of the collective that's been suppressed, the nurturing, the creativity, the intuition, and really letting go of the need to prove, because we have had to prove our value. We didn't have the same rights. And okay, that story is fading away. It's time for us to take ownership. There's always going to be that history, but what I keep thinking is you and I, we're going to be somebody's ancestor someday. So what part of the story do we want to rewrite? What do we want to believe? What do we want the next generation of just humanity to believe? Because I'm ready for more nurturing creativity, intuitive energy in the world.
Yeah, I hear you, and because I find it fascinating that that is, we all know that is what so many people crave, is the community, but we've been, again, it's all from our programming, isn't it? Is that because of the way quite often the workplace is structured, it's a dog eat dog, everyone's fighting for the next thing, so it was almost keeping people back. And even in the the self-development arena, or the online businesses, there can be so much scarcity mindset because they're still being run by the ego, and they're not realizing that, oh my goodness, you can do so much more when you work as a collective. Hello. And it's a lonely place if you're going to be doing everything, but who wants to do that? I mean, it's beyond me anyway, because we're not designed. We surely, from the last few years, we've realized that, yeah, we're not designed to be on our own. We're not designed to be separated from each other. Enough people suffered with that in the last few years globally. So do you think, almost because of that, even though that was a horrendous thing, do you think that things are going to speed up in this move towards change because of it?
I mean, yes. I feel like I was already tapped into the acceleration before the pandemic. I read a book like 15 years ago called The 9 Waves of Creation. And so I don't know if I can't remember the author, but it's just coming to me like we're in the 9th wave. And so in that belief, everything is speeding up. Like what is it? The Schumann resonance that talks about how our heartbeat is a little bit faster, right? When the astronauts go out into space and they try to come back. So things, I mean, look at technology. Everything is speeding up in general.
Time is.
But that's a belief, right? That's an interesting belief to explore. Was created. The measurement of time was created to begin with. But what I do know is that we do get to choose. I mean, have you ever had moments where time seemed really slow? So
yes.
So I don't know if you're familiar with human design, but I'm a manifesting generator, which is considered the time benders. And so I always think about like the 5-year-old kid who has to go to the bathroom, right? 5 minutes is way too long to hold. Right? It's like they can't hold it. But 5 minutes can also be go by in a heartbeat. Like, so it's all perception. So we get to choose how we show up in it. We get to choose, to slow down. And this prosperity consciousness, the fifth element of wealth, wealth is WELLTH. It's the mental, the physical, the emotional, the spiritual, the financial piece. And the financial piece, if we just like look at what are the things that are really difficult for people to talk about: sex, food, politics, religion, and money. Money is difficult for people to talk about. It's important for us to facilitate a healthy relationship with money, just like we do with our bodies when we're healing physically, or just like we do with food. And I think for so many people, for whatever reason, there was shame around money. We have the block that we have to work hard to be successful. I know that was mine. Like, I have to earn it. So even if I don't have enough to do at work, I better make it look like I'm earning my value. And that's a lot of the women I work with. There's beliefs about people with money. There's beliefs about wealth. There's beliefs about money that it's not aligned with my personal values, especially in the spiritual healing community. I talk about the saboteurs. A big saboteur, money saboteur that shows up is the martyr. So there's the people pleaser, the martyr, the saver, the free spirit. The free spirit is even a saboteur. It's the person who's like, I'm just going to magically manifest abundance. Well, it's not that. It's magical, yes, and you play a role in it. You take the aligned
Yeah.
action towards, right? And that's usually the person who's spending money on appearing to be spiritual, but not actually aligned in their values. So there's all these saboteurs. There's the tyrant who has to control everything, who's very invested in her image, and there's the saver who it will like buy 3 of everything because it's on sale, right? Like that type of person. So I have a course called Prosperity that really gets into, there's the money love language. So it's like understanding how our love language in life, quality time, acts of service, gifts, words of praise, and which one am I forgetting? Quality time, acts of service, words of affirmation, gifts. I don't know how I can't remember this right now. Physical touch. Of course, that's my husband's. Oops, sorry, babe. But when we have a relationship with money, we realize we have a love language with money too. It's actually looking at money to be a physical entity that we get to create a relationship with. And when we do, what we get to do is we get to amplify. This is my favorite part. We get to amplify our voice and our values in the world, because money is an energy that energy feeds the ability for us to have choice to amplify what our values are. If I value organic food, I get to buy organic food. If I value, supporting certain organizations, I get to do that. I get to create events. I get, this right here, what we've created. This is an investment of time, energy, and money. And so when we are resourced, we get to amplify our values into the world. And our values as a collective begin to amplify the way that the world that we live in, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's why I've become really passionate about. But it takes like understanding what are your sabotaging behaviors and beliefs. And what I have
There's a
found,
lot.
there's a
There's a
lot.
lot, isn't there? And especially, like you say, especially I feel in the more spiritual or therapists, healers, there is so much of a block because they don't want to talk about money because they just want to help. They just
It's
want to do
not
that. And
spiritual.
it's, I don't want to talk about the money. Well, you're only going to get paid the more people you help. So even if you switch it around and say, well, I want to help more people, which means I'm going to make more money, but there's real resistance there.
I
Where
lived
does
in
that
it.
come from? I mean, it's fear, but where is it? Why is it so rife? Actually, just from what I've seen, it seems to be more apparent in the people that are doing the giving, that are the serving. And where is that all coming from?
It's the people pleaser and the martyr. It's like, why did you decide? There's something underneath. It's either maybe you don't realize you believe that your value in the world is by helping others. And so that's kind of the shadow and the gift, because the gift is the shadow. It actually is the same. We get to choose how we transmute that energy. So what I'm saying is that you're a gifted healer, and maybe likely you stepped into that because of challenges that you overcame. And there's a subconscious need that you're not consciously aware of, that somehow in your mind you believe that you are lovable or valued or safe, or whatever that basic human need is, because you're here to help others. The healthy energy in that is not being attached to that identity, knowing and owning that you have this gift, but not making it be your identity. It's part of what you offer, but it's not your soul identity. Your soul has its own identity. The healing is just what you do, or the
Mm.
coaching or whatever. So I think, and I went through this myself, I think we become attached to the value that we perceive we are by what we do, or the value that we perceive we are by how much we give, or by how busy we are. And yeah, there, and it all comes from deep. Some of it might not even be ours. This could be karmic generational stuff. Some of it might be from something that happened in our childhood where, we just, how did you receive love? How were you valued? When were you recognized? I know for me, I was, I got attention when I achieved well. My dad would say, "Oh, I'm so proud of you." And that was kind of like that's what I remember. And of course he meant well, but then I equated that to, that's how I am valued. That's how I am loved. And so we learn things subconsciously, either our parents or mentors or authority figures in our life, whatever that is. We develop a need to be safe. We develop a need to be loved unconditionally, loved without condition, because that's a whole nother thing. We develop a need to be valued, or to feel. I just had a hummingbird hit my window.
Oh,
So cool. That's
oh wow.
that reminds me of that's my mom's mom. So gotcha.
Oh my
I
goodness.
know. She just kind of ran into the,
A
just humming
hummingbird.
around out
Wow.
there. It's so cool. So yeah, we just, it's really peeling back the layers of being willing to do the work and understand where. I like to call it a glamorous survivor strategy. Where did this glamorous survivor strategy start? And the hard part is that it's served us really well. Like, you got the degree, you got the, and so on the outside it looks really good. You became an energy healer. You did whatever you're doing great stuff in the world. But is it really aligned here? Are you really in the flow? Are you really allowing? Are you really energized by what you do? Or is it coming from a place of a need to be valued, a need to be
Mm,
loved? So that's really the
interesting.
difference. Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose so many people are doing what they think they should be doing, which I know, I've been there as well.
That's right.
Like you say, it's from wherever it's come from, whether it has been your parents or how you've felt, your thought about your own value in the world as you're growing up. And it's such a fascinating subject, because it just seems, with everybody I seem to speak to, I mean, it really, no matter what it is they're doing, it all comes back to this same, this is how, we are as human beings. Our subconscious is like this up to whatever, up to age 7. And all these things are that we've learned to deal with certain things seems to be fixed. And then we get into adulthood and we're still bringing this same sort of child stuff over, and we're just not aware. It's so bizarre that how have we got to this day? We're in 2023 and it feels like we're only just figuring this stuff out and realizing that we need to look within, and we need to really get to real issue as to what is holding us back and where it comes from, and heal from it. It does. Maybe it's just the people I'm speaking to, but I do feel like we really are on a bit of a healing. We're on a
Mhm.
healing process at the moment. Does it you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think it's because we are in that reality. And I think that, the past few years really separated. I think it widened the gap a little bit. I saw people really stuck in just whatever space they were in. And then I saw a lot of people really waking up to a new kind of paradigm. So I think that we're surrounded by people who everybody listening here probably is in that shift. And so, but it's not everybody. And that's okay. That's
Mm.
the balance. That's, I think of it as like a chess game or the yin and the yang, right? Like it's if everybody was on the same page, like we like would maybe just, I don't burn up and just, there has to be some sort of balance. It's just like the seasons. It's all cyclical flow. So
All in the
I
right time. All in the right time.
no,
Everybody, they might not be there yet on their journey. So,
well, and even in this lifetime, like maybe it's not,
yeah.
I think we try to find the answers when really it's really more about just being present to the journey that their soul is on, in my belief, at least for this lifetime. Like there's a theme or whatever for this lifetime that we get to keep peeling the layers. And it's like you think you had it figured out, and then as soon as you think you figured it out, it shows up in a different way. And yeah.
100%. And I thought I'd had it. I've been, I would consider myself a student of the self development for the last 20 years. And it's only in the last year that I think, oh, I was getting it all wrong.
Yeah, just when you think you
Because
got it
they
figured
kept,
out.
you think you got it. I did. And that's the thing. I was thinking, I thought I had it figured out. Everything was thought. Your thoughts become things, your thoughts, man. It was all thoughts. And I thought I had to keep thinking. And it was
Yeah.
only revisiting an really old book. I say this a lot. I mean, I should work for Eckhart Tolle, I think, because I love his The Power of Now. I read it 20 years ago, but I obviously just didn't get it. I read it once and I got it again on Audible, which is, another plug for him because his voice is just so calming. I prefer to listen to him now than read the book.
Yeah.
And it just is like, oh, you have those more aha. I'm like, oh, yeah, I thought I had it. No, I didn't. Again, ego. Even though I thought I was always heart-centered, no, I wasn't. I was still trying to control everything and think, and prep and work. Still working. But
Yeah.
not that stopped, but it's different.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I just love that you're just bringing light to the possibility of just a new way of showing up. And I same experience. I've been reading the same books for 20 years too, and then 20 years later they land differently and you receive different things. And and even just hearing the audible is different than reading the book. And we just get to trust that we hear what we need to when we're ready to. And in some way, what I've been experiencing is it's almost like there's a freedom. It's like, oh, thank goodness I don't have to have it figured out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've been I mean, I'm definitely one of those anyway, terrible habit of overcomplicating things. And it's actually, I feel like I'm actually, like I say, it's almost like peeling back rather than piling on. It's
Yeah,
like, no, it's so much easier than we thought it was.
it
Come off,
is.
come off, come off. So for you, I know so with this, I mean, like you're working a lot with women. What do you think most women are really seeking for them
Mhm.
to sort of really do well personally, professionally, with regards to their self-worth,
Hmm.
acceptance?
Yeah, so trusting themselves. I mean, that's just it. That's what prosperity is embodied trust. Most often women will say and admit that they are standing in their own way.
Yeah.
And yeah, And it's like, so I like to say simplify to amplify. And women are just seeking trust and permission. They're seeking permission to know that who they actually really are is enough. And so, in the circles that I hold, the beautiful thing is I work with really high achieving women, and just from all walks of life, like the lawyers, the doctors, the military officers, the entrepreneurs. It's just a certain, it's like we're wired that way. We love to work, we love to accomplish. And I even tried to, I went so down the spiritual path, I tried to be super woo and zen, and I was like, I'm actually not that happy. Where's the balance, right? Like, I'm actually a passionate person. And so it's finding the balance of that fire within me and the women I serve, that we know that we're here for sort of that impact, but knowing when it's coming from an unhealthy place. And and I mean, what I'm learning, and I've been facilitating retreats for since 2014, is women are so desperately craving permission and space to show up authentically. This means scream, cry, admit that the things that you've been shaming yourself for or judging yourself for. You're going to realize that you're not alone. Like, you're going to realize that what you're judging yourself for, other women are hiding too. And there's just this sense of freedom in owning that, in owning the whole experience. And there's this really amazing thing that happens when women come together and, like, actually look into each other's eyes and just be like, I see you. Like, I see you in all that you're holding. And I see you in the abusive relationships you've been in, or sexual trauma is huge, or in whatever it is that you're judging yourself for, overgiving, whatever that is. And I see you as this beautiful, amazing, gifted person. And so that's where we get to decide to lead a life from the gift, not the past. We get to decide to make decisions on who we are becoming. I always say, make a decision from where you are, it'll keep you there. Make the decision from the version of you that you want to become. Give yourself permission to know what that is first, because most women are too busy to know what that is. And you're going to go there, because if we can see, sense, and feel that, it's in us. We can't create an idea that's not possible. That's just not how
Yeah.
energy works. So you get to decide to take a step forward to the woman that you know that you are, that you want to become, and stop all the stuff that's really not that important. Like this to-do list, make the to-do list for the to-do list. My husband used to make fun of me. He's like, he wrote a to-do list one time that said, make to-do list, make to-do list, make to-do list. I was like, all right, I get it. And okay,
Yes.
I'm over. So yeah, most women are just seeking that trust, that permission. They need clarity. They need to simplify and really listen. You said the word listen. Like, what does your soul want? What do you really want? Are your actions aligned with your value, the truth of who you are? Are you really creating the life and the legacy, the imprint that your soul came here to do? Because
Love
when you
that.
are, it gets to be easy and it gets to be fun.
Well, you're in the flow. I mean, it's just, it just, and that is when things happen. There aren't so many obstacles. There aren't so, you're just in the flow. Not that it doesn't mean you're not going to have another challenge, but they won't be seen as challenges, because again, that's all perception, isn't it? What one person could see it as a big obstacle, other would go, yeah, that's just, deal with that, move on. So again, I suppose it's how we look at it as well.
Yeah. I always think
Yeah.
the challenges give us clarity about what's not working.
Mm.
It's like, okay, that really sucked and that hurt, and that I was not aligned, and that just is not working for me. So now, moving forward, I'm no longer available for this.
Love that. And that word, I mean, to me, clarity. I mean, it's so massive, but because it's an intangible,
kind of a
I
feeling.
don't think people understand actually how important, when you do have complete clarity on what it is you want and where the steps sort of, they just unfold, don't they? Rather than, I can remember just being really confused and, oh, do I want this? And then, of course, confusion, overwhelm, nothing, you can't see anything. The moment you have that, clarity, it's the word says it, just everything clears and the next steps just show up just like, there you go. But how do people get clarity? I mean, you're working with energy. You're doing you. It sounds like you're putting everything together in one. How do people get that clarity of purpose?
One of the things I say is that energy loves clarity, and I believe everything is energy. So money loves clarity. Love, you want your soulmate? Clarity. Your even the energy of your health, right? It's like it's all, when it's clear, it is the way. When there's too much clutter, it's exhausting and it's not clear. So energy loves clarity. How do we get clear? Well, we have to be willing to create the space. You have to be willing to create space and either time, commit in some way, I do believe, whether it's meditate, pray, journal, whatever, they all work. Your meditation can be while you're washing your hair. It doesn't mean you have to sit in silence for 20 minutes. I've done it all. And honestly, I wouldn't do this work if I didn't believe this. And I've had so much support along the way. But if you have somebody in your corner calling out your blind spots, if you have a mentor, a coach, support, a healer, that is a way that you get to be resourced. And it's a way that you get to clarity a lot faster. I know you're Superwoman girl. It's like, that's who I work with. And I know you can do it all, but you don't have to. You get to be supported. And I wouldn't be where I am without the support of the people who have helped me get here. I've been willing to receive. So create the space, be willing to receive. Clarity is not in the doing. Clarity is in the being. And it takes the willingness and the commitment to create that space in a way that works for you. And if you're new to this, maybe it's time to get a little support in that. Somebody is going to hold the space and hold you accountable just to commit to whatever you say it is that you're going to do. You want to 5 minutes a day of journaling, you want to go to the gym 3 days a week, whatever it is. It's just so much nicer to have the support of someone, and it feels good to be supported. So what do you need for clarity? You got to create sacred space. You got to create a little spaciousness in your life to commit, because that space basically tells energy, it gives clarity to energy on what's next. If you're just stuck in the minutia of what's happening, nothing's going to change. And then decision creates momentum. So even indecision is a decision. It's just a decision to stay stuck. So it's, when I talk about prosperity that embody trust, you said scarcity earlier. The opposite of scarcity is trust. That's what it is. And so the only way out of scarcity is to take that leap of faith and trust, because scarcity is fear. It's not trusting. And so that's, trust is a part of clarity as well. It's like making that decision that feels uncomfortable. That's where the growth is. That's why it's called a stretch. That's why it's a lean in, because that's how we grow, and being willing to lean into what feels uncomfortable, because you never know if you don't try. And then the last part that I'll say in all of that is the courage to release the attachment to the outcome, which takes a lot of trust, right? That's the last 1% of trust.
And that's, that is the thing that I really feel that is the thing that actually all links everything that you've just said together. That's that's where the scarcity stuff comes from. It is that whole, because people are so desperate for this thing. But no, it's only when you become detached from the outcome. Just do your thing and try. It's all the same thing. Actually, it sounds like there are just two things. We just complicate it and dress it up with different names. And that's fear and scarcity and this and that. It's one or the other. Clarity, peace, joy, that's all that side, and everything else is on that side. But it takes practice, doesn't it? Because we're human, and it's almost like a natural. It's not going to happen. Ding! You are now detached from the outcome. Wouldn't that be lovely? Just unplug.
Oh yeah. I mean, that I don't know if that's part of the human. I mean, there are people that do walk this earth completely unattached.
Oh, I
Highly
know.
evolved people. But yes, we get to
Yes.
practice it. And what if
Practice it?
we do? But here's the fun part. What if what's possible, because I always see this, is better than what you imagined? Right?
Yeah.
Like, what if you think you want something and you're so fixated on it, when really this bigger, more amazing thing is actually like, hello, this is for you. So yeah, it's that trusting even when the results aren't there. That's kind of that last 1%. The embodied trust, that's true prosperity, is it. And again, it's freedom. It's like being able to trust without attachment. And then even more so, choosing to trust when the results aren't there. That's when you're really like, so how well do you really trust? Like, it's easy to trust when the results are there.
Yes, that's the challenge. Love it. The fascinating conversation. Could stay here for hours.
I think we could. Thank you.
So, but to the listeners, I mean, all your info is going to be down here, but very quickly for the listeners to come and find you, how do they find you? What do you have to offer?
Yeah, so I'm on not all social media platforms. I'm on Instagram at jen.mons, MONS, Facebook, Jen Mons Coaching, my website, jenmons.com. I do have a prosperity roadmap bundle that's available. It's a really great intro into prosperity consciousness. It has some money blocks, the saboteurs. There's a couple videos. I do offer some complimentary experiences throughout the year. This is some insight into that. So, and I also have an Energize and Align ebook as well. So those, that's how I support women through 5-element wealth, which is, I really created the program through the chakras. Actually, I don't tell everybody that, but that's what it was created through. So it's building a foundation from the root up to living well mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, and financially. And then for those women really in that space where this is speaking to you, you're ready to take up more space in the world, be resourced financially. Prosperity is a way that you can tap into that energy. I have a podcast, Body and Soul Wisdom podcast, that I talk about all these things on there. I have a journal, it's called 13 Moons, that encourages women to live in the cyclical flow. There's daily journal prompts for the whole year, but I talk a lot about the feminine energy and the flow. And I host retreats, which is one of my most favorite things to do. I'm headed to Hawaii next week, a couple a year, international, usually one international, one local, but we come together. We do this feminine archetype work. We do feminine leadership archetype work. We move a lot. We sing, we chant, we drum, we dance. We just get fully embodied into all the parts of being in the feminine energy, and giving permission to women to lead from their gifts, not their survivor strategies, in whatever realm, whatever reality that they're living in. A leader in your community, your home, your job, or even as an entrepreneur. So that's my favorite thing to do.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for your time today. Lovely talk today. Yeah, brilliant. So guys, get in touch if you're ready. Yeah, if you're ready to take action, because, like you say, there could be something bigger, much bigger out there than you've even realized. So, guys, I will be back on Monday with a coffee with Karen. So, bye for now.
Aloha. Thank you.
Coffee with Karen podcast, a weekly chat show discussing everything from holistic health to current affairs from a mental, physical, and spiritual perspective. Get your weekly cup of positivity with a sprinkling of woo-woo.